Hey guys, this video is going to discuss taking the final paperwork all the way through evaluations. So just looking, this is the week that we're looking at. It's the week before spring break. It says final draft of pre-conference work plus evaluations. Health history, obviously, if applicable, will be due. And then there's a midpoint self-reflection sheet. If you'll just email that to your students or print it out and give it to them on the clinical day, that is for them to turn in with their paperwork. Since we have spring break next week, and for those on Thursday and Friday clinicals, their paperwork would be due during spring break, and that we can't ask them to do that. So they can turn it in the Monday after spring break, just because they're technically off and we cannot ask them to do work during that time. So I have included also in the email a document that takes the nursing diagnosis all the way through evaluation. So I have had people ask, can I give this to my students? Absolutely. I print it off or email it to them and give it to them just so they have a copy of it to refer back to. Hopefully they can take notes on it during post-conference as well. So this is the same nursing diagnosis that we did last week as we discussed nursing interventions and rationales. So I thought it would be good to just kind of see how to take it further. So this week they're going to be doing the same as before, taking their nursing diagnosis, doing a goal and outcome statement for that nursing diagnosis, and listing pertinent interventions and rationales. And then we're going to add the evaluation. So basically, all that needs to go here is actual interventions performed and patient's response. So if the intervention was, these should be written prior to coming to clinical, right? So before clinical, they wrote assess skin temperature and color every 4 hours during each shift. And so at the end of clinical, or before they turn their paperwork in, they're going to need to write the evaluation. And they write what was actually done. So patient skin is warm and pink. Focused assessment on left leg, and findings were consistent with the rest of the skin being pink and warm to touch on whatever date. Okay. Another one, assess capillary refill of upper and lower nail beds every 4 hours. What was actually done is that capillary refill on both hands and both feet were swift in less than 3 seconds, and when it happened. Assess patient's range of motion. Patient demonstrated wiggling toes and fingers and even flexion of extremities. So if it's obvious that, especially with our students at the level they are, that they might write an intervention that they weren't able to do. And so all they have to do is say that this intervention was not done and why. It could be that it didn't really pertain to the patient, or that for some reason they weren't able to do it because of the circumstance of the patient. And students have a hard time understanding that it's okay if this evaluation wasn't done. You just need to state why, because they're thinking about all this the night before, and since they don't have a lot of experience underneath their belt, they might be coming up with interventions that we really couldn't do, and so they'll just have to write that there, and that's fine. Also, with evaluations, they're gonna come the last page. It has the nursing process evaluation, overall goal outcome evaluation. So basically, they are stating this. They're coming back and saying whether or not this goal outcome was met. And so if you'll see here, it says overall goal outcome evaluation. Patient demonstrated effective tissue perfusion. You see, if you go back up here, you see that the goal was to maintain adequate tissue perfusion. So patient demonstrated effective tissue perfusion by, and so they're going through and they're basically going through every outcome and saying by demonstrating regular pulses bilaterally with sufficient amplitude of 3+ or 2+, an affected left leg, capillary refill was less than 3 seconds in all nail beds, and warm and pink skin color over entire body, as well as the ability to wiggle toes, fingers, and no evidence of DVT. So they need to be sure that they state whether or not that their goal was met, and that they address every part of the outcome statement. So here's another one, just in case if it helps. Impaired physical mobility related to pain. Patient will demonstrate safe ambulation without pain as evidenced by, and this should say patient correctly using assistive devices when ambulating and reporting pain of 4 or less. Here are some interventions with the evaluation. And then the patient demonstrated pain-free and safe ambulation by ambulating to the bathroom 4 times on 11/11. So I hope that helps with the evaluation process. And basically, that is a whole concept map. Okay, so before spring break, your students will have been taught how to do an entire concept map. Because this is not a really hard section, the evaluation section, I recommend spending time as well, kind of perfecting or discussing the areas that your patients seem to be struggling. My patients this past week struggled with supporting data, so we kind of talked more about what supporting data was, where you get that. You know, that it can come from the chart, but it's also going to come from actual assessments that you do, things that the patient says to you, medications that the patient has ordered, and things like that. So just there's usually some spot that your group will be struggling a little bit, and so now this week would be a great time to go ahead and just kind of work on that. Okay, and then we're also going to start giving meds this week. So as I mentioned in the email, we want to give students the opportunity to give meds 2 times during the clinical semester. So go ahead and tell your tell your students who are going to be given meds the first week. I just kind of map it out on a calendar, sorry, who's going to be doing it every week, and making sure that I have time for everyone to give meds at least twice. Okay, well, I hope this helps. If you need anything, you know where to get me. See you later, guys.